like in Cali, one of the things that if you're political, you are at a different risk than if you're just a regular civilian, such as myself. Or if you're a landowner, there's an expression in Spanish, no le da papaya, don't give papaya, don't, don't give to temptation, like temptation makes the thief. So you want to maintain a low profile. I think that you're, regardless of who you are, you will always be exposed to the common crime of somebody stealing your handbag, an express kidnapping where they will take you to the cash machine and withdraw your money. I mean, that is a fear. I have been in a car where somebody has pulled up alongside of me with a pistol and put the pistol at the window and said, "Give me your handbag." And you're like, oh my God. And I roll the window down this much and just pass my cell phone through. And then the light changes, fortunately. So the common crime is something you're always there. And at the end of the day, that's just, collateral. You just know that's what you're going to have to do. We would walk around the river or something, and you'd always have a small bill in your pocket in case they came up to rob you. You'd be like, here, take it. If we were landowners or something, I think I'd have a different fear, and you wouldn't want to go into an outside the city where you're more exposed and people know your movements and stuff, because then you are exposed to a kidnapping or a larger, more organized crime. I think the bigger fear is, if there was a kidnapping that was not organized, because the organized crime would be done by professionals. So they would know what they're doing. And if you get kidnapped by a random person, then you're like, that's more fearful because they don't know what they're doing. And this is funny that I'm smiling, but these were conversations that we had in our home. I ended up leaving, personal reasons. And I think as, I just, for me, I don't have, and I didn't have the freedom that Ezra has. I think I had too much fear. There was just too much fear for me to enjoy Colombia the way Ezra does. I follow him on Instagram, and I'm like, where is that waterfall? And why have I not seen it? And I did get, in the last couple of years I was there, I was a little more adventurous and did get to go to more remote places, but now I don't think I would, considering the circumstances, if I was there. So I think, it just becomes part of it just becomes a part of your life. And arriving back in New York, I constantly say I'm a block from my sister. And I just say, how nice is it that I can walk down the street with my cell phone? How nice is it I can get in the car and roll down the windows? So I struggled a bit, but Ezra has a very different experience than I do.
Well, I think that the levels of violence in Colombia and in Cali particularly are really tragic, a direct result of 500 years of a colonial project, and more specifically, a multi-decade neo-colonial project of the US-led drug war that imposes a fight against a plant that is native to this region, and what most experts in the field now consider an erroneous strategy of drug control in society. It's a topic that causes me so much sorrow, and living the repercussions of that violence and seeing how it strips the Colombian youth, the youth of Cali, of access to opportunity, makes people traumatized. There's generalized trauma in Cali. People show signs in their personalities of having grown up in, the results of growing up in neighborhoods, houses, a city, a country, a region that's gripped by violence. I think experiencing that and knowing that this kind of I guess it started with Nixon, the war on drugs, but seeing the repercussions of those US policies in people who I have grown close to, and hearing those stories made me feel an imperative to be part of the work that's being done here. It's something that the more I see, the harder it is to turn away. And that question of when too much is too much is always a discussion in my household and in my community, I think I would say that I know I have colleagues, American colleagues who are journalists who have a much higher tolerance for situations of risk than I have. And so being involved in communities where there's a real scale of knowledge. I have friends who grew up in towns in the valley that are even more violent than Cali, and people from other social contexts than my own who are very close, who I'm able to get more in-depth information from, to have a broader understanding of risk and the nature of risk and the nature of violence. And that quest, because it's also not just that you might have your cell phone robbed. There could be a landslide, there could be a flash flood, there could be all these other environmental factors. You could be bit by a spider. It's the tropics. It's a lot of life. And I think that if you're going to stay here, if you're going to assimilate into this culture, it's going to be a process of adjustment. When I arrived in Cali, I was afraid to walk to the supermarket, but now, I've been in some pretty hairy situations, and you're just hoping that they're not going to happen, but hope that if they do happen, you are equipped with the kinds of communication skills that you're going to need to defuse a situation. And I mean, I think that the biggest change that I've gone through in living here has been studying martial arts. I never thought that that would be something that I would do in my life, but it was kind of, actually Heidi and I had Heidi trained with my guy for a while. But you start looking for ways to be more comfortable in the space. And there's a phrase in Cali which is "hay que estar siempre en la jugada," which means you have to be in the game at all times. And that means that it's a reflection of a society that's hyper vigilant. And hypervigilance could be a bad thing, but it could also mean extreme presence, walking around the streets without your cell phone out, and taking in every detail. And I'll just leave you with, on this security thing, I just want to leave you with this anecdote, because I knew a trans woman here in Cali who I met during the time of the national strike. And she was a highly anxious person. Trans women around the world are at the highest risk group of attack and homicide, and particularly high in Latin America. And Gabby she's my height. I'm 6'2". It looks like Sophia Loren, really sticks out in Cali. And to manage her anxiety, she liked to walk around the city. So, to calm down, she assumes a really high level of risk, which is walking outside as a trans woman. And during the strike, we were all losing our minds, and she asked me to walk with her one night, highly dangerous activity during the strike, let alone any other day of the year. And she wanted to walk along the river where it's a very large homeless population. And I thought, well, I'm not going to let her walk by herself. She's going to walk anyway. I'm going to go. And it was a life-changing moment, because Gabby knew the first names of all of the homeless people on the river. And it was clear that what she had done was to make a social map of her territory and use communication and goodwill to keep herself safe in the street. And I found that really inspiring, because I didn't know the names of any of the homeless people, and I walked by them every day and just assumed that they were dangerous. And it was so humbling to see how that kind of friendly communication can defuse such a dangerous, intense environment.